Right. Good evening, guys, and welcome to episode 9. Youngie's told me about 15 times now. Episode 9 on the welcome to the We Know Nothing show. Now, tonight we've got an absolute legend that shouldn't need any introduction, as you can see from the bottom of your screens. He's well known to a lot of Burnley fans as Graham Branchy, Di Branchio. Obviously, we'll be polite and call him Branchy on tonight's show. So yeah, welcome to the We Know Nothing show. Branchy, pleasure to have you on. Thank you very much for agreeing to come on to the show. Really not knowing what it's about yet, so we'll see after if you've enjoyed it. So yeah, like I said, guys, all it is tonight is just a couple of lads talking about football. Like I said, try and keep the negativity to a minimum. Obviously, constructive feedback is appreciated. Youngie, the hostess with the mostess. Welcome, son. Couldn't do it without you as always.
Yeah.
So yeah, enjoy.
So, episode number 9, as Mark's already said, Graham Branch is on the show, and I'm going to start by going through a little bit about Branchy. So, currently 15 years into football coaching, obviously had nearly 17 years of professional and semi-professional football. I think it was towards the end of your career. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was an eye injury that sort of put an end to his career. But you know, some noticeable clubs in there: Tranmere, Bury, Wigan, Stockport, obviously the mighty Clarets, Accrington Stanley, and then Colway Bay to finish it off. You know, and again, in that time, some fantastic numbers that come along with it. You know, 102 appearances for Tranmere, you know, over 250 appearances for Burnley in there. And, you know, over 400 career appearances professionally, which is a massive number. Liverpool fan, Burnley fan as well. So we'll go into a bit on that. And obviously we want to talk about, you know, a couple of ex-managers, noticeably Stan Ternent, who quite rightly so, in a lot of Burnley people's eyes, is a legend of the club. And I think given the right backing at the right time, probably could have taken Burnley a lot further than what he actually got them. But yeah, again, did fantastic stuff with the club. We're going to talk a little bit about Andy Payton, first. Ian Wright a little bit, because he came for a short stint at the club. And I'd love to know what the feeling was when he did come in. A little bit about your testimonial and how I managed to get my hands on one of your testimonial shirts not so long ago. And then we'll finish off just by you going over your football is what I'd like to do. So let's start off by talking you talking your career, really. Obviously, big Tranmere, long time at Tranmere Rovers. How was that?
Tough. Going from amateur football straight into professional football was pretty tough at 19. Playing for Heswell in the West Cheshire League, which was a good league then. Ian Wown, number 2 at Burnley. He played in that. The Reeves brothers, you know, they had some, you know, talented footballers then. I got kind of signed from Heswell straight into Tranmere, and it was pretty tough, to be fair. Totally different atmosphere, playing in front of a lot more people, different way of playing football, which we've just spoken about, which was the hardest part. And just getting used to it. I was quite a shy lad then. Football's made me immensely tough. When you come onto football, you realise that you have to tone down your toughness sometimes. Which I do sometimes, but sometimes I don't. I am kind of who I am. But I did find that probably the first couple of years pretty tough, to be fair, on the Johnny King.
Obviously, you went out on a couple of loans while you were there. You weren't noticeable for your goals, but in your 102 appearances for Tranmere, you got 10, which is not a bad return. We playing mainly left side at that point? As I know it was. So
yeah, I think I was playing. I think under Johnny King, who played left wing, and then kind of towards the back end, Johnny King centre forward with, and then a couple of centre forwards with John Aldridge as well.
You are 6'2" though, if I'm right in saying. So
yeah, I mean, it was quite weird to have such a tall lad playing winger. But yeah, I mean, I played predominantly on the left wing for Tranmere, and seemed to be kind of the.
I think we might have lost Branchy there.
Just kind of a bit on it.
Yeah, let's see if he comes back in. Graham, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, sorry, it just froze it.
Yeah, so a couple of loans then at Bury and Wigan, respectively. One early on when you went to Tranmere, which was Bury, and then one a little bit later on at Wigan. And then you went to Stockport.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you enjoyed that time there. Gary Megson, I've read some comments that you've previously made about Gary Megson, and I don't believe you had a very good relationship with him. Can you explain any on that? Are you?
Yeah, I think there was only one person who had a good relationship with him, and that was Derek McInnes, the old Aberdeen manager. Derek. It was Derek, wasn't it? And
yeah,
but most people didn't like him. He was just a bully. At the end of the day, he wasn't a particularly nice person.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing I don't like is bullies. It's my pet hate. And he was, and it was old school football, which is different than today's football. You know, most footballers nowadays wouldn't last 2 minutes in the old school style of football, but he took it to a totally different level. And he fell out with most people. Most people were kind of scared of him. I wasn't. I'm not an easily intimidated guy, and I stood up to him, and that's what best decision I ever did, because that's the thing that made me go to Burnley in the end. So, big pat on the back for myself for standing up to such a bully.
That's
me being nice.
That is fantastic, though, isn't it? Standing up to your bully and being able to.
He was just an absolute idiot, absolute moron.
And then, I think I read that he put you on the transfer list on a Monday, and then that was the end of it, and you ended up at Burnley. Kind of want to stop at that point, because I want to go into Burnley a little bit more afterwards. So I want to just jump back to you being a Liverpool fan, and let's just talk the last couple of years, because you've got to have been happy sort of 2 years ago when you went and won the league. Where do you see you've gone from winning the league? Obviously, Jurgen Klopp has been a fantastic manager. But where do you go now? Obviously, you've not really spent loads this season, if anything, really.
I think we've got to be quite careful, Liverpool, because I think potentially they've got to stagnate. You got all the other teams spending a lot of money. Football's a squad game now. You got your Burnleys. They need a better squad, more depth, more quality in the squad. You've got, and it goes right through the league. And I think if you're going for all these cups in Europe, you're playing all these games, which English teams do. You need a good, strong squad. Could be loads of injuries. Could be loads of games. As you were saying before, I played 50 games when we got promoted. I mean, could you play 50 games now? You don't hear many players playing 50 games in the Premier League or the Championship. It's just not a done thing. It's all about squad rotation. And if you haven't got the quality behind you, then you've got to struggle. And I think Liverpool are going to struggle this season. Man City, Man United, Chelsea, they've all spent a lot of money. And I think Liverpool are going to stagnate a little bit, to be fair.
We a couple of weeks ago, probably about 3 shows ago, we just after the Euros, we did a transfer show, like part 1, and then we finished it off last week. And we've both agreed that you've got the likes of, obviously, you've got Chelsea, Man City, Man United, and you look at the windows and you look at what they've done and you look at the sort of the players they've signed, and I look at Liverpool and I think you are 100% spot on with what you're saying about it's a squad game. And I've always said about Liverpool, they don't necessarily have a second 11. What if you've got players who can come in and just do the job like a Bobby Firmino's doing, or a Salah or a Mane, or I mean, it showed when they lost Matip, Van Dijk, and Gomez. They were having to sign young lads and stuff, and it's one of them, innit? I think Liverpool, I think you're right, I think they could struggle, because I think the teams above them, around them, have strengthened.
Yeah.
So, the season Liverpool won the league, I think they were very lucky with injuries and stuff. I think they just got on a run and they didn't have any injuries. And last year, it showed the need for the strength. I've got two. Well, we know a lad. We know two lads that are big Liverpool fans, home and away, week in, week out, Europe as well, and they're surprised that they've only signed. I think it's Canate, the centre half.
Yeah.
A lot of lads have said, can't believe they've not replaced Gini Wijnaldum. I'm struggling to understand why they've not replaced Gini, but time will tell. But yeah, and I think it's the evolution of it. I think as well, the football side of it, the money what's in football nowadays is astronomical. Paying Man City paying 100 million for Grealish. Can you imagine someone going for that money back in day, with things like that? Some clubs weren't even worth 100 million. I mean, I know we weren't as a club. You could have bought us about 25 times with 100 million.
It's obscene, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we said it a couple of weeks ago.
It's one of the questions I've got, actually. Who in the squad, the promotion squad, would now go for way more money than they would have been worth then, really?
And you can't say yourself.
No. Glenn Little.
Absolutely.
Pates.
Yeah.
And Steve Davis.
Yeah, we said that, didn't we, earlier about Davis?
Mr. Carbs, Steve Davis, innit?
Yeah. I mean, even Coxey, he was just like a Rolls Royce. It reminds me a little bit of Van Dijk. He's just so laid back. He was really, really good. But we had quality right through the squad.
Yeah.
We played, we always played against Premier League teams or Premier League teams now, and we always matched them. I always enjoyed playing against Premier League teams because they always gave you loads of respect. You always had loads of time on the ball. You can see it now. You go into the Championship now, you get smashed left, right, and centre, or you used to.
Yeah.
But now, you watch the Premier League now. They stand on their feet. They give you time to make their decisions.
They'll let you build up, don't they? They'll let you get back in position.
It's an easier football. That's the reason we always did well against the Premier League teams, and a lot of teams do. So it's we had quality all over the place, and that's the reason why I think we built what we did under Stan to give Burnley the foundations to do what they're doing today.
Yeah, and I truly believe that. And I want you to touch on that in a minute. One more person regarding Liverpool is Steven Gerrard. Obviously, he's having a cracking time at Rangers at the minute. Do you see him coming and doing that at Liverpool? Obviously, we've seen the likes of Wayne Rooney get into football management. We've seen Frank Lampard go back to Chelsea and fail a little bit. Probably not given a little bit more time, potentially. But can we see Gerrard coming back and giving it a go?
I think it'd be a mistake.
For him or for the club?
I think for both.
Yeah.
I think he's such a legend, isn't he? I think Frank Lampard's shown going back to Chelsea where he's kind of held in the same level that Stevie Gerrard is at Liverpool, and it didn't happen for him, and he spent a lot of money. You have to. We're talking top end managers. Yeah. And whether Stevie Gerrard's one of them, going to Scotland's, I'm not being disrespectful to Scotland, and this is not a disrespectful comment, but there's only two teams. and it's Celtic and Rangers. And if you know, you see, so already you've got a 50% chance of doing something. If you buy in quality, which obviously he has, a lot of English players, they've got a really good chance. He did very well last season, but coming into the Premier League is a totally different, totally different scenario.
Do you think he could? Because I agree with you and Youngie about the club legend going back to a club and being a manager and stuff. I think it's sort of similar to a bit like Ollie at the minute at United. You know what he achieved at Manchester United is amazing, considering he were a quality player. He didn't play a lot of 90-minute games. He was one of them players that come off the bench. He was impact, and he knew where to go. I mean, what a player to have on the bench in the last 10 minutes. You knew he was going to get you a goal. But yeah, I'm on the belief sometimes that I think because you're a club legend, I think some fans look at it and say, well, he's got a God-given right to come and manage our football club because he's been, and I don't think that's the right way. I think Frank Lampard went to Chelsea too early. But in the same instance, I don't know if Gerrard will look at that. What happened to Lampard? I mean, the fans still love Lampard. That'll never go away. But I don't. Gerrard might look at that and be like, do I want to go down there? And you know, even the diehard fans would be angry at him if they got on a poor run and stuff. So it's sort of like your legacy in it at the club and stuff. But yeah, I agree with you. I think I don't think he'll manage Liverpool.
I think he needs a stepping stone before potentially, you know, maybe a lower Premier League, a high Championship. See how he does there, and then he can kind of sharpen his teeth ready for, you know, the big one. But going straight into Chelsea, Lampard, dear me. Yeah. I mean, even Rooney's finding it hard at Derby, isn't he? You know, so it just shows, doesn't matter how good a footballer you are, doesn't mean that you're a good manager.
Yeah. We need to remember that, Youngie, when we go into management.
So, well, let's jump back to your career again then now, and we'll go to Burnley. Obviously, you get brought in by Stan Ternent around that Christmas time. Following season, you play the third most appearances in the squad, and we get promotion, which is a fantastic achievement. You made 50 appearances, and as we mentioned, it's not heard of nowadays. We've already mentioned when we were off that you have a lot of admiration for Stan Ternent. So I'm going to let you talk about a little bit about Stan Ternent and what you think of the bloke.
Stan, he was pain in the backside, to be fair. He fell out with everyone. He was a moody git. But he'd walk to the end of the earth for you. And he did regularly for certain lads. I'm never going to go into details with some of them. But Stan was, I fell out with probably the gaffer probably once a week. And I think everyone else did. But by far my happiest time in my 17 years as a footballer, by far. And Wells, Foxy, Wright, Single, Wells, Pates, Cookie up front with Pates. It was just, we go into Gawthorpe, which was not a very nice place to train. If we're going to be honest, it was full of mud and like a dungeon. It was dingy, but you'd come out with a big smile on your face because everyone was like a family. You know, when under Steve Cottrell, someone else I didn't like. There was an atmosphere. There was a lot of egos. There was There was a nastiness to what was going on behind the scenes, and some of it was led by him because he was full of ego. But with Stan and Sam Ellis and Doc and Fox, Cliff Roberts, it was brilliant. I still look back and think of some of the stories and the laughs we had and some of the stuff that went on, and that'll never leave me, literally. And I can't, and I know, I'll probably get a bit of stick off Wells. Wells likes giving some stick out, to be fair. And he'll probably listen to this and go, oh, you love the gaffer, don't you? You're in love with the gaffer, but I don't care. I can't say anything more positive about the gaffer. Top man, top man.
Yeah, he is held in. I think there's a few Burnley fans that still have a little bit of an issue with Stan and some of his methods, but there's a hell of a lot of Burnley fans that hold him in such high regards. And as I already said, given the money that's branded about today, he would have been in a much better position and taken totally the club even further. He said he set that groundwork of where the club is currently at today. We've had some managers along the way, and we've been promoted to the Premier League and relegated, but it all started with that promotion right there and the standards that he set at the football club.
Totally agree.
One of the things that he said about you was you were a Premiership standard player, and then he brought you in and then put you at left back. And
that's Stan for you.
Burnley fans sort of got on your back at first, and I read a comment like I just switched off from them and what they were saying, and I can believe that. Just speaking to you now and the honesty that you, the way that you talk, that you didn't. But when you got your opportunity to go and play at that left wing, we saw a different Graham Branch at that point, didn't we?
I mean, the amount of respect I've got for the gaffer, it was hard to knock on his door and say, Gaffer, I don't want to play left back. I don't want to play centre half. I don't want to play centre mid. I don't want to play right wing. But because I had that much respect for him, then I wanted just to do the best for him and the team. Now, I backhand the compliment that he wanted me to play. I remember playing one game up front with Pates. Me and Pates we were scoring for fun. We were destroying teams. Me and Pates up front, and then second half he put me centre half. Now I could have easily knocked on his door. I think it was a Tuesday night. It was dark. It must have been a Tuesday night. I could have knocked on his door the day after and said, Gaffer, so what's going on here? I haven't got a clue when I'm playing. And it's football's about knowing who you're playing against, what you got to do. But when you're playing chop and changing, and more people respect me now for those times than they did at the time, because people don't get it. They didn't get it. They do now. A lot of them do now, and I get some nice comments now that once you put on that pitch and you're chopping and changing different positions, people don't realise how hard it is.
Yeah.
No.
And it's easy when people are looking down at you and you're playing one position and you play another and you're not playing well or things aren't going well.
Signal's dropped out a little bit again.
You'll jump back in, won't it?
Yeah, I'll come back.
I'll catch it back up. Honestly, technology. There we go. Keeps freezing. Keeps freezing, honestly.
Sorry.
Technology.
But yeah, but I mean, as I was saying, it's very, very hard to play in different positions. But I mean, it's one of them things that it gave longevity to my career.
Yeah.
And in the end, you give and you take away. It's one of them, isn't it? You either get on with it, you knock on the door, which some players did, but I was playing in most weeks, and sometimes some of the stick did affect me, but in the end, I won most of them over.
Yeah, you went and moved to left. You went and moved to left side midfield, and I remember. I remember you scoring a goal against. I think it was against Tranmere, where you sort of the ball's going to the halfway line, and I'm sure it's someone like I can't remember who it was, but you touched it past him and then went from halfway line Watford. At full speed, and
Watford.
then it might have been Watford, and then just tucked it under the keeper. Was Akinbaye at the back post as well, and then instead of squaring it to the striker, just rolled it into far side and ran off.
That was Watford at home, yeah.
And that was it. 6'2", pretty sharpish as well. You weren't slow on ground, and that, I believe, that was one of the reasons why he put you in at the back, because we did have Steve Davis, who was built like a tank. So he wasn't the fastest across the ground, Steve Davis, was he? For the size of his calves.
I think Skip was struggling a little bit with his pace, and Gaffer. I know the Gaffer was a bit wary of the balls going over the top, and Steve Davis was phenomenal centre half. Bloody hell! Yeah. But let's be honest, he was one of the best centre halves ever to play for Burnley, for sure.
We've absolutely without a doubt.
But sometimes he turned like a QE2. He turned like a QE2. Maybe he's watching this.
Turning tackle of a tank.
That was such a hard position. Jesus crumbs, so hard.
Well, it's a good point that you made about. I think it was a good point what you were talking about, how when people are looking down on you, and you are doing them different positions, and they're saying, why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? Because what they don't see is, all they will see is a professional footballer on that pitch. So that professional footballer should be able to play left wing in goal, right back, right wing up top. And, like I said, we've played at a pretty good standard. But it is very, very difficult to change that mindset from, like, 1 week you're playing up front, and then next week you could be in net. And it's like, it's a completely different mind shift, because 1 week you're putting the ball in the net, the next week you're fetching it out the net. So it's, it's a great point that you make about that, Branch. It really is, because that's what you did for the team. You sacrificed a lot of things for Burnley, and I think that's where you were talking about a lot. That's why you won a lot of fans over. You certainly won, like me over when you went top left wing, and that's why I think Di Brancio were born.
Yeah. You must have enjoyed that when everybody in the turf was singing Graham Di Brancio at the top of the voice, as you were.
Yeah.
As you'd won them over at that point, and they were giving you the plaudits that you truly deserved at that point.
Yeah, I think. I remember having a conversation with.
No.
I keep stopping doing it. I'm going to turn. I don't think it's us, is it? I'm going to turn my Wi-Fi off and get rid of that.
Come on, come back.
He's actually there. I think he's just fallen asleep with us.
Oh, yeah. There he goes, back in. Just muted. Muted.
Yeah.
Branchy, you muted. Branchy, you muted. Let me
Branch on mute, mate. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Back in.
I remember having a conversation with the Gaffer once. I think I had a particularly bad week, and he was very honest with me again, the Gaffer. This was down in Gawthorpe. And he turned around to me, goes, Branchy, so you can either go, I'll find you another club, or you can win the fans over. So me being as stubborn as I am, I decided to stay and win the fans over. And he helped me through that process, really. And there were some dark days, because when it doesn't matter how good you are, if your confidence is shot, you're struggling, period. Yeah. And again, fans don't get that. It's not like, stacking shelves. You don't need confidence for that. You're trying to play in front of 20,000 people week in, week out, and people are on your case. Then let's see how most people would react to that situation. They wouldn't react very well. So, I know, that's what I was getting paid for, and that's my job. Yeah, that's a fair comment. But, as I said, when you're playing different positions, it just adds another total different dimension to, the complication of being a footballer.
Yeah, agreed. Big time.
So I want to ask you, in your time at Burnley, who was the standout player that you played with? Who was that?
God, I played with so many. Steve Davis, Robbie Blake, Glenn Little, Pates. Wells had his moments. Cookie up front, Andy Cook. Couldn't get the ball off him. Ball would go into him and Pates. Them and Pates played really well. Pates would score, and Andy Cookie would kind of set the play up, target man. You know, he was. I mean, he looking at. I think I saw him at Lenny's Bamber Bridge last year, 2 years ago, and he's been on the weights. It's like massive. He's massive now. It's like a neck cookie, you know. But you know, it was just the team were riddled. I mean, even like Westy, right back. I mean, he was class. You know, there was just quality everywhere. Cookie, you know, Paul Cook. It was everywhere, you know, and we were lucky. I mean, how the gaffer managed to get all those players in one, you know, in one team, in one squad. You know, he was very fortunate considering he didn't have much money to spend. So he's obviously very good at working behind the scenes as well.
I think that's a testament in the album. That's definitely a testament in the man, because he, like you said, he'd wear his heart on his sleeve for you, and he'd go to the ends of the earth for you. And if you've got, we always say, if you've got a manager on the sideline and you get to the last 15 minutes, 20 minutes of a game, and you're blowing and you feel like you can't do any more, and your manager's like, come on, you've got this, come on, keep going, you know you can do it and stuff, and you know that if he were on that pitch he'd drag you through that game, it sort of like gives you that extra second wind a little bit. I think that's probably what he did with them players he signed on.
Massively. I mean, you see it with Sean Dyche now, he kind of has that same effect on his players as well, because you know they're not one of the top teams, but no one likes playing against them, so it's you know, he obviously, the work rate's very high, and it has to be in that level. But Stan was a bit like Sean Dyche, really. You know, works wonders behind the scenes, get the most out of his players, and you know, very Sean Dyche, or maybe Sean Dyche is very Stan Ternent-esque.
Stan Ternent,
So,
you know, wheeling and dealing was his thing, and he managed to wheel and deal and bring an aging Ian Wright into the club. What was that like behind the scenes? Obviously, we've seen what sort of impact he had on the pitch and what he brought there, but what was it like for you lads behind the scene? Like, must have given you a buzz.
Righty was off his head. I mean, he'd walk into a room with these massive teeth, and he just had a huge smile on his face. I mean, his mouth was like this big. It was, but he had one of these bouncy strides. And it was a masterstroke by the gaffer, because we were doing well that season, but we were kind of struggling. And Wrighty was the spark, and he scored a few goals as well. I think Brentford away he scored, and I think it was Brentford away. And he came at the right time. Well, that was the gaffer. He understood the situation and he reacted to the situation to sort it out, and it worked wonders. We got promoted.
He did.
Yeah, definitely. We said that, didn't we, before? He scored a few important goals for us in that promotion season. Yeah, he popped up when we needed a goal, definitely.
Yeah, he brought the crowds, you know, and there was a great buzz around the whole place, and we all fed off that, and it helped us push us over the line.
And you know, it's fantastic when your manager sees that and then and does some. He only played 15 games for the club that season, and it was that catalyst that did get you over the line, and it still held. I still hold it as one of my favourite, arguably my favourite moment. We got promoted to Premier League, but that season, doing what we did, and where we got to, and you know, he still hold the Premier League, being promoted to the Premier League, in quite high regards. But you know, that season for me was great. You know, watching all the players that you've mentioned, yourself playing week in, week out, and it's different football now, isn't it? It was almost dirty football then. You know, Turf Moor was
different game.
Turf Moor was never a well-cut pitch that had grass on it all year round. You know, it was that you could kick a ball out at one point and it had been dry for a week and it still won't roll to end.
It always had that strip down the side of the pitch that was always muddy, that didn't get the sun. Always muddy. That's what I remember. But it rained a lot in Burnley and the pitch wasn't like it is now. I mean, I remember, I think the first season he got in the Premier League, I can't remember what I did. It might have been the play of the season with Eddie Howe. And I was looking at the pitch and someone said, that's getting ripped up, though. I was like, it looks like Wembley. Pristine. And he said, is that getting ripped up? Yes, it's getting ripped up next week. I went, what I would have done is play on a pitch like that.
Exactly. 100%.
Unbelievable, but that's times have changed, haven't they? So,
definitely.
What else was I going to go on to? So, you had a year-long testimonial. How did that feel? Obviously, every game was a Graham Branch testimonial game, followed by a big testimonial at the end of the season.
Yeah, it was. Being honest, it was left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. To be fair, I'd probably say, again, being nice, there was probably a clash of personalities. I had a big bust up with Steve Cottrell, because he didn't have a reserve team, and after one meeting with all the staff, I think the team had been beaten. He always liked to watch records of videos. This was should have, you should have done this, you should have done that. Any questions, lads? Well, I put my hand up. Yeah. How am I? Spice, John Spice, and Gary. Can't remember Gaz's surname. And we scored at Wolves away, Molyneux, Friday night. We beat them 1-0.
Oh, yeah, Gary. It were the lad we got from.
Did he have that long ginger hair? Spiky. Gary.
Oh, I knew you on about.
Small.
Yeah, Gary O'Connor or something.
Yeah.
Gary O'Connor.
No, that was Ginge, one from Stoke. I think he came from Bournemouth. Gaz.
Is that the lad who come with the owl? Not Eddie Howe. Did he come with Elliot?
Yes.
Yeah, it was Gareth O'Connor. He brought.
Was it? Gaz, right, okay.
I think it was him. Yeah, free kick at Wolves. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. So the free kick. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
free kick.
So, yeah, it was, and I put my hand up and I said, "Well, how are we supposed to get into the first team?" And he just reacted really negatively. So just all went off. And obviously, I stood my ground, and I thought, I'm not taking your shit anymore. I've been here 8 years. You've been here a year. He goes, I've got your testimonial. I went, fuck, you ain't got me my testimonial. My 250 odd games has got me my testimonial.
Yeah,
I said, you ain't.
Absolutely.
So it all went off. And I remember, and this was in one of the stands at Turf Moor, and then on the way down, Danny Coyne, who was my teammate and car buddy, he went, Branchy. It was funny. He went, "You're unique, aren't you?" I said, "What do you mean, Daddy?" He goes, "No one else would have argued with him." I said, "Well, I'm not taking his crap." I said, "I've never known a man with so much ego than him."
Yeah.
And no one likes him. He winds people up. And it was a genuine question. I mean, and I wasn't trying to cause trouble. I was being very honest. How are we supposed to get into the first team? I want to play for Burnley again. I've been here for a long time. This is my club. It's not your club, Mr. Cottrell. I played here for a long time. I want to play. And he just went at me. So I thought, you know what? Take the gloves off. I'll go back at you. And he didn't like it. And that was probably the end of my. I played at Preston half. Me and Addy played up front, and I remember me hitting the crossbar. And we turned the game. I think we got beat 2-0. And he turned around to me and he went, I wasn't going to play you, Branchy, because I didn't want people thinking that people could have a go at me and play. That's what he said to me on the couch. So I said, well, at the end of the day, Gaffer, I said, I'm not really bothered what you think. I said, all I want to do is play. And that was last time I played. So it left a bit of a bitter taste.
Yeah.
Because I still think I probably could have had another year. But obviously under him, it wasn't going to happen. So, that was just one of them things.
Because that was it for the last couple of years. You managed to, get another year contract, and then you again perform well that season, and rightly so deserve another year contract. And I think Burnley fans would have had a sour taste in the mouth. You getting a year-long testimonial, they're not actually getting to see you play that much in that time. And
quite sad, really. I think the season before, the penultimate year, I think John Harley won Player of the Season. And I know this is quite controversial, but I don't really care. John Harley didn't win the Player of the Season. It was actually me, because it was done on the website. And this person was privy to a conversation with Mr. Cottrell and someone else. I won't mention this other person. He worked behind the scenes at Burnley. And this person turned around to Mr. Cottrell and said, Graham Branch has won Player of the Season. And he went, no, he hasn't. Give it to John Harley. And that kind of put the nail in the coffin, really, with my thoughts on Steve Cottrell. And I never got on with him from day dot, really. And that did leave a real sour taste in my mouth. So, but that's life, isn't it? You just get on with it.
Absolutely.
Well, Youngie, you won't remember this. Well, you might do, actually. You might remember this, Younger. So it's a funny thing that what you just said, that, Branch, because the season, I think it was the season when Ternent announced that he was leaving, and he did his lap of honour at the last game of the season. He were getting quite tearing, quite emotional, really, because he'd done a lot for the club, and there won't be many, like you say about Sean Dyche. I think Sean Dyche should get the same, approach and approval from the Burnley fans. There won't be many managers that come to Burnley that can get every single Burnley fan standing and clapping and cheering his name and stuff. But it's really funny what you said about Cottrell, because we were coaching down with Andy Payton and Vince Overson and players like managers like, and ex-pros like that. And I think Cottrell must have come across one day and said, "You're not going to be able to use that barn because we need to train." I think where they were training, I think it were whatever it were. And he actually went up to either Andy Payton or Vince and went to shake his hand and said, "Steve Cottrell, next England manager." And
sorry, I've heard that story.
And I think from that, Andy Payton, or I think it might have been Payton, actually, I think it were Payton. I think from that, Andy Payton just went off him straight away, because why would you introduce yourself as next England manager? It's just like
says a lot, doesn't it? I mean, it's fair. It can come across as me sounding bitter, and I'm not sounding bitter. I'm just saying how it was. I couldn't give a toss if people saying it, but I mean, if people are hearing that stuff from the horse's mouth, then that kind of says a lot, really, doesn't it?
No, I think Burnley fans will see it the same way. I think he came across as that. He came across in interviews after games and stuff like that as arrogant, and I think Burnley fans won't hold him in high regard. There's a number of Burnley fans that obviously hold Owen Coyle in more high regard.
Steve
Cottrell. Yeah, that says something.
Annoying Coyle jumped off the ship, didn't he? So, and unfortunately, he went to a ship that sank quicker than a lot of other clubs. So, I agree with that. I think you should have got more out of your final year at the club, if not another contract out of it. As I said earlier, I managed to pick up a Graham Branch testimonial shirt for not a lot of money not so long ago. But when me and Mark played against the Vintage Clarets for a friend of ours, and I offered the shirt up, and it's going to be auctioned off at some point, relatively soon, to try and raise a bit more money for Mark Harrison. So and people will buy it because you're Graham Branch and you're Burnley legend. So I hope you've still got one for yourself. But if not, there's one going up on auction. It's crashed again.
Yeah.
I think I have, mate. Yeah. I think I've got one somewhere. Hopefully, I've.
Maybe if you've not got a Burnley one, maybe ask Steve Cottrell or Gary Megson if they've got one of your old shirts, Branchy. Maybe they've got one.
Yeah. It'd be a fight.
So I just want to touch on what you think of the current Burnley situation, and obviously you've already mentioned that Sean Dyche is doing pretty good job at Burnley and has been doing a pretty good job. So if you want to just have a little bit on what you think of the current Burnley.
Sean Dyche just reminds me of a boxer with one hand tied behind his back. He's not giving no money. I think they're lowest in the league, aren't they, for net spend or whatever.
Yeah.
But he does a fabulous job. I've watched Burnley a lot. And no one likes playing against them. It's not the most attractive football in the world, but it gets results. And they work very hard, and it's a very tough job. I did say probably a Q&A with Pate probably last year before COVID, year before, I don't know, it might be year before, that if Burnley don't start spending some money, that it will catch them out. They've got an aging squad to a point, and that some players need to be, or just not replaced. I'm not saying that some of them should be replaced, but they need freshening up. Playing all these games every season for an older person becomes quite taxing on the body, and as we spoke about before, it's a squad game, and they can't be expecting to play all these games. So where they're going to get the money from, I thought with the takeover, a better money would be pumped into the squad. It doesn't seem to materialise. Some fans aren't very happy about that. Rightly so. It's their club. They're paying their money. So hopefully things will change soon in regards to how much money Sean Dyche has got to spend, which he has recently, but that's one player. I think he needs 5 or 6 players.
Yeah, we agree on that. Me and Mark have had, we've done a podcast purely on what we think of a transfer window in the whole, and then about Burnley, and yeah, we couldn't agree more on that, to be perfectly honest. What do you think of? Oh, go for it.
No, I was just going to ask a question about. For me, I think you played in probably one of the more physical generations of football, and when you smash someone, you smashed them, and they stayed smashed, and you could tackle someone and pull them up, shake their hand. I've done away you go. Out of obviously barring, I'd probably say Cristiano and Lionel Messi and players like that. Who do you think out of the players that have stood out over the last couple of years that you think potentially could have cut the mustard way back when, do you think?
Good question. Not many now. I mean, I stopped watching the Italian game years ago because the amount of times players were diving and the whistle was going every 10 seconds, and I just switched off. You look at like Stevie Gerrard, Frank Lampard. They're not going back that long. They could have easily, but not many now. I mean, the amount of dives. I mean, it's embarrassing. I mean, you must get. I mean, I watch rugby because I like to see a proper sport. Yeah, a lot of respect, and they batter. They don't kick; they batter lumps out of each other. But some of these rugby players must be looking at football, going, "My God, these are a bunch of pansies."
Legal usually
diving. It does my head in. I mean, I understand trying to get free kicks outside the box, trying to get penalties, but my God, please! I mean, some of them. I mean, if they just went, "That's a yellow. That's a yellow." After the game, you dive. That's a yellow. Stop it like that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
it's ruining. It's just ruining the game. It's ruined a man's game. It's a woman's game. But we're talking about the man's side. It's a man's game, and men should be men. They should not be people who are diving left, right, and centre. Yeah. It's embarrassing.
No, I agree.
It's a simulation, though, isn't it? It is a simulation. That's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah. That is the problem. Yeah, 100%. We said it, didn't we, last week, Younger? We were talking about we like to refer to Arsenal FC as Banter FC now. But like we were saying about it last week when the I think Ainsley Maitland-Niles situation where he'd been refused a loan move, I think, to Everton, or Everton was sniffing around him and they didn't let him go, and he went on social media to give his displeasure and things like that. And we were saying, because I loved
somebody
Arsenal
in your squad, in that promotion-winning squad, going on social media at that point, if it was as heightened social media as is now, and putting something like that, and what Stan would do behind the scenes. Could you imagine?
Jesus Christ, do you really want to know?
Yeah, I think we've got an idea.
There'd be haymakers and headbutts flying all over the place. Literally.
Did Stan really ever do with David May in Sports Hall? Were you there with David? Is that
Maisie?
Did he ever go with
Maisie? That was at Gawthorpe. Yeah.
What a lad!
Yeah, that was. I remember that. I actually remember that very vividly. And yeah, that was Stan. I think it was over a tackle on. Might have been on Wells, poor Weller, and I think he's trying to snap Wells. I think Maisie was in a mood over something, and he snapped Wells, and we couldn't tackle really that much because we didn't have a very big squad. And I think Wells got up. He's quite a tough lad, Wells, and he bounced anyway because he's a fat little git anyway.
We'll cut that out. Cut that
out. No, keep that in, please. And the gaffer just went for him, like proper went for him, throwing punches. I think he caught Maisie a couple of times. Then Arthur, no hair. Remember big Arthur, big black dude, Arthur.
Yeah.
And he got in the middle, and Gaffer was just trying to rain punches over at Arthur. And
you're not getting over the top of him. He was a bit of a unit as well, wasn't he? So
he was big off, to be fair. And that all. And then we were best mates the day after. We were giving Maisie loads of stick, and we've given Gaffer some stick as well. We had a bit of banter with the Gaffer, and I think he had to go and apologise. So it was all
football about that, isn't it? That's what football. Then that was what football was about. You'd have your differences. You'd be able to out like, as we've said already, in the men's sport, like men, and then the following day get up and dust yourself down again and get on with it and move forward.
All the time, mate. It happened in the tunnel before games. I remember Leeds.
Yeah, I bet.
I remember Leeds having a fight. I think there was a fight with Micah Hyde. This was Steve Cottrell, with Sean Derry, midfielder. Yeah, he snapped me. He did my medial ligament against Leeds that game, and he called Micah. I think it was potentially a racist name, and Micah chinned him.
Good, he deserves that.
Yeah, he did.
100% deserves that. Yeah.
And then Addy got involved. Oh Jesus!
I'm not surprised. I'll tell you what.
Addy was
in a bit. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, Addy had his top off. I'm going to kill someone, and he was muscle. And Addy's the nicest person in the world, but you don't get on the wrong side of Addy. He's just he's just a beast. And there was always fights. It was great. Men at men only.
That's it. So obviously you talk about that's not what I was going to say. You do a bit of commentary now on some of the Burnley games. Player that plays in your position, Dwight McNeil, young lad, up and coming. What do you make of him? I
think he's Burnley's kind of go-to man, isn't he? Really, to do something a bit different. I mean, I'm really impressed with the left back. The left-sided of Burnley anyway. I think it's it's every time I watch the boys on the left side, they played really well. I think the couple of goals he scored, McNeil, you'd like to see him kind of said to one of the commentators that I'd like to see him play a bit more central when the ball's on the opposite side and find little pockets of space.
We've absolutely said
that. And he scored against Everton by doing that. Instead of being on the left, he tends to stay out a little bit too wide sometimes, especially from the far side. This is my coaching head on now. But when he comes in field and he finds little pockets, and he's a menace because he can go both ways,
doesn't he?
And but he needs to do that more. I mean, his work rate's good. It's tough sometimes on a player because you're always looking for him to do something, and you can't always do that. I mean, the best players in the world can't always do that, but sometimes when he's on the ball, he does look a class apart for sure.
Mm.
Yeah, that's exactly what we think. He's arguably our standout player, like you say, go-to player, someone that we rely on a lot, and he does a lot of work rate. That left, like you said, that left side is strong, but it's only strong because of the amount of work rate, and that's bred from the manager. We've said that before. He gets a lot out of his players, and I think sometimes it'll take a little bit away from what you get from Dwight McNeil. And we were only saying last week, with the new bloke coming in the corner, potentially it might free him up to play a slightly different formation and hopefully see Dwight McNeil slotting in that middle of park somewhere as more of an attacking minded central midfielder. Really, that's what I would like to see him as anyway. And working in that pocket in front of Chris Wood, really, and potentially Ashley Barnes up there as well. When it's not going too well for us, you need a bit of Ashley Barnes about, don't you? He's still that old school type of player who does that dirty work and puts himself about and whatnot. What I want to go on to now is like I said at the start, 15 years of football coaching, and you currently run Football First Academy. How's that going, and how are you finding football coaching at the minute?
I love it. Coaching kids. I don't get on with adults. I find them irritating, a lot of them. They're very, especially where I live in West Kirby on the Wirral, they're very intrusive, very opinionated, absolute pain in the arses, a lot of them. Because they're all quite affluent and they've got a God-given right to poke their nose into other people's business. And I react very negatively to that. I'm quite a private person, really. And a lot of them don't like me for that, because I'll stand up and I'll just say, mind your own business, stay away from me, etc., etc. But kids, I mean, obviously you get the odd kid who's can be a little bit of a pain in the bum. Kids are kids, but on the whole, kids are just brilliant. I get on really well with kids. They react very well to me. They like my coaching. Sometimes I can be quite strong. I've got my own academy. I've managed to send, double figures into the professional game, and I do push them quite hard, because I know how hard it is to be a footballer. And but I give that as disclaimer to the parents before they come to my academy, that this is what's going to happen, so the parents know. But I love coaching kids. I get a lot of enjoyment, whether they're new to football, whether they're going into the professional arena. I didn't have the passion for football when I left Accrington. I found that year very tough, probably going from Burnley to Accrington. I didn't enjoy that step. I'm going to be honest. I kind of missed the lads, and it was a new environment. Whether that's a new environment I want to be in at 36, probably not. And I didn't really have the passion for football, but I've been asked to. There's a team called West Kirby United, which is one of the biggest in the country now. They've amalgamated with another club, and they're huge. And I was asked to do a couple of coaching sessions for the kids, and more people started asking me. So in the end, I decided to run a business, and it's just grown and grown and grown. So I absolutely love it.
So you do all the coaching yourself, or have you got a group of people, or is it just yourself that does the coaching?
I've got helpers, but I find it very hard to relinquish my coaching to others, because I know my own qualities, and I know what I can deliver, and I don't want to, as arrogant as this sounds, because there's coaches, probably better than me out there, but I like my coaching. I feel that you've got to be quite careful in whether you're doing a 4 or 5 year old, or whether you're doing a 14, 15-year-old trying to get a professional game. All these different coaching methods, which I've seen with a couple of people. You've got to be quite careful, because if they're getting coached by different people, they have their own different ways of coaching. And I feel that my coaching, through the success that I've had, which thankfully I have, and I'm happy for that my coaching works. I've had people who go to Liverpool, their one-on-one situations has been drummed out to them. Pass. If you've got a skill, you don't stop using it. You enhance it. And a lot of professional clubs take that out. And I don't like that. And I'd want to coach the kids, and it's harder for me as a coach especially if I'm trying to get the kids up to that level, because I have to coach them everything. If you go to Crewe, it's pass. If you go to Everton, it's one-on-ones, or Man United, it's one-on-ones. So you have to coach everything. So that's why my job's quite hard. If you go to Man United, they don't pass; they just go one-on-one. Liverpool's tip-tap, angles, triangles, etc., etc. But I have to incorporate everything in case they do go to these different clubs. But I get huge enjoyment out of it. I love it.
That's fantastic. Can you drop a name of somebody that we need to watch out for in the future that's come through?
There's a lad, Charlie Hayes. Charlie Hayes Green. He's just signed a scholarship for Liverpool. I was coaching him when he was 5. He's 16 now. And he's just signed for Liverpool. The scholarship, he's been there since he was 7, I think. Charlie's been there a long time. I think he's just had an injury. And there's a couple of lads, from a Crewe, and a couple of Tranmere and stuff like that. So, I'm lucky enough to be able to get, kids up to that level. But I get just as much enjoyment as a coaching a boy or a girl 3 or 4 who can't kick a ball, who want to start playing with their mates in the playground because they feel that they're capable of playing football with the kids because they're good enough to do that. So, it's both ends of the spectrum, really. It's just hugely rewarding, really is.
Yeah, no, it's really good. That it's amazing though, because I think you sort of hit the nail on the head with what I was just gonna sort of say. Like, I love the fact that you've got that passion to give back what you learned over the 17 years in your illustrious career and stuff, and you just give them a little bit of a drop in the ocean about what you achieved and how you played football and stuff, and it's then down to them to kind of harness all this information and grasp it and kind of get switched on with it and stuff. You can only teach them to a certain point. They have to understand it and they have to grasp it.
I have that conversation with plenty of children and parents. Me and I do loads of one-on-ones, kind of tailored one-on-ones with children. I have a parent there because the parent coaches the child when I'm not there 95% of the time, and also trying to get, as you very, very rightly, and it's a very intelligent comment, not that you're thick, but it's a very intelligent comment, that these children, some kids, without being disrespectful, know that they're not going to progress because they haven't got that concentration level or the inkling to want to grasp the information you're trying to give. Whereas some parents, some kids just look at you and they don't move. They just stare at you and they're absorbing everything into their heads, and they're the ones who become advanced. So, but the parents need to be educated. It's not the kids, mostly it's the parents. It's massively hard to be a footballer, and but some of the parents need to kind of understand that as well, because some of them don't. Some of the comments I hear, he's my pension, he's going to make it, he should be in Liverpool. I'm thinking, you ain't got a clue.
It's curbing that, isn't it? It's stopping the parent doing it a little bit for themselves, because you get that where people want to live their dream inside their child, and
pound signs.
Yes.
And
pound signs straight away. Pound signs.
And having someone being as honest as you and saying, you need to do this to try and then get to that level. And sometimes it's not going to work, is it? There's, how many kids play football every weekend, and how many of them kids are going to go on to play at any standard of football, whether it be semi-professional or professional? The numbers are, it's not a lot.
The numbers are mind-blowing. I mean, kids now do 5-6 different sports a week.
Yeah.
When I was growing up in the streets of Liverpool, I only played one sport. Football.
Yeah, that's it.
I know, and that was kind of, it's been a generational shift. They do, karate, they do, tennis, they do swimming, they do clubs, etc., etc. I mean, if you're going to be a footballer, I'm sorry, you got to play football.
It's got to be football, hasn't it?
It's got to be football.
It's the same with any sport, isn't it? If you're going to be a professional sports person, you dedicate your whole time to that sport, and as you do now to golf, like you dedicate a lot of your time to playing golf, and you've made yourself good at it, and it's the only way that you will become a professional footballer, is if you can dedicate your whole amount of time to it, especially in this day and age. Like, they're even more of an athlete than they were 10, 15 years ago. So
I mean, I went down to Solar Campus about a year ago with Fruity, Mickey Mellon, the manager, Tranmere. He's my old kind of roommate. And he was showing me around. I think I was getting a couple of Tranmere tops signed for a couple of the local kids around here. And he showed me into a room. And I went, Fruity, what's that room for? And it was just like shelves of supplements and drink.
Yeah.
And I said, and he goes, that's tailored to every player. I was like, we never had that.
No.
I said, do you remember the time we went to Bristol Rovers away? We beat them 4-3. First, I think it might have been Stan's second or third game. We beat them, and I think I remember scoring. And we went down on a Friday night. We went to the pub Friday night. Came out stinking of smoke because you couldn't see the bar because it was that smoky. And then Saturday morning we had a fry up. And I was like, I turned around to Mickey, Fruity, and went, it's like black pudding, sausage, bacon. It's like, can't eat this before a game. Well, that's how it's changed now. You know, you probably get an extra 15% out of every player, and that 15% adds huge, doesn't it?
Massive
Yeah,
change.
absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the supplements, it's massive, and I think that's the point you make. Like the longevity now of a footballer is much longer than it were 15, 20 years ago, just because of how the game's materialised into a lot of these footballers now. They're athletes that look after themselves.
Yeah.
You know, they're very disciplined. You know, they've got a very good ritual. I mean, and I think that's that. I suppose it's not in some sense it's not a bad point, because they sort of live in the best life. They live in the healthy lifestyle that you need to do to be at the top of it. I mean, Ronaldo's the perfect example. You look at Ronaldo and his body shape and how he is and what he eats and how he looks after himself. I mean, the guy's a machine, and it shows that in his game and how he's materialised his game over the last few years. But you know, I think it'll only enhance the game in some sense. But I do think that there is so much focus now and so much pressure for these young lads coming through in the game, because the heights what these players are at the moment, like your Haalands, your Mbappes, even your Ronaldos and Messis, you know, they're still at the top of the game and stuff. And you're like 15, 16-year-old and you've got a massive future ahead of you. You've got managers saying you're going to be the next best thing, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. And you sort of buy into all this as a young lad and stuff, and you start believing it, don't you? And I think that's a you know, you see the footballers these days, and some of them just get on with it. They play football 90 minutes and then go home. That's it. And they could have, like Phil Foden kind of comes across in that mannerism, that it's like it's a kickabout in the park with his mates, and then he goes home to his mum and dad's house for tea and then sleeps in bunk beds or something. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of that, and that's natural talent. But no, I mean, I there's so many differences between the game today and when the likes of yourself and Pates and Davis and all them lads were playing. And it has, I think the game has gone backwards in the sense of you can't tackle anymore. It's not a physical game anymore. But then it's gone forwards in the sense of some of these lads nowadays, they blow your mind with how good they are, don't they?
Yeah.
And you being an ex-professional must see that.
The game's a lot quicker now. I mean, I think, you know, a lot of footballers now, you have to be a sprinter, and then they add the footballer on top. You know, they're all literally, you know, it's speed. I mean, you look at the English national team, it's just, apart from Maguire and probably Pickford, you know, it's just built for speed. Everyone's lightning quick. And that's how it's gone in today's game. And where's it going to finish? You know, it's
exactly that's it. It goes through cycles, doesn't it? It does go through cycles. Definitely goes through cycles. Like I said, I'm not ashamed to say it. You know, like I never hit the heights that I would have liked to hit as a footballer, and I'm probably not the only person to say it. Like I said, I'll be honest, the lad, my best mate, he should have made it in my eyes personally. But I think I love, like, I'm still playing now and stuff, and I'm, you know, coming to the end. You know, I'm going on 37 this year and stuff, and there's a lot of body parts hurting than I can even remember nowadays. You sort of get through the pain barrier to play and stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of it, when you come out of that, out of a sort of good clubbish and stuff, a lot of it is the lads, the banter. You know, that's what. Yeah, 100%. And you'll have it on a different level because you were a professional, so it was your job and stuff, and you know, you probably didn't socialise with half of the lads outside of the club and stuff, but you had that sort of good friend base and stuff, and that's what you have at work, don't you? You know, and in a semi-pro club or amateur club and stuff, you do get that, and that's what I love. That's what I miss with. You know, we're younger in the change rooms, having a laugh before the game and stuff. But you know, you just carry on, don't you? You've got to carry on. If you stop, then that's when you're in trouble.
Yeah, totally. You just got to keep plodding on. I mean, I found I was coming out of kind of professional football that I had to tone down my banter
Yeah.
I remember speaking to Neil Mellor. He lives just around the corner, and he was saying that he had to tone down his banter because the normal folk can't handle it. Because in football, you know, it was quite cutthroat. You'd have to go back straight away. You know, you come out like a bloody comedian because it's all these years of just, I'll give you some back. You can't think. If you think, they hammer you.
Yeah, exactly.
I was in the army for 7 years. I had to turn back my banter as well.
Hard, isn't it? I mean, it's hard when you come out into the normal world, but you have to be quite careful with your tongue because you start offending people. You're like, bloody hell, I didn't think that was that bad, but you know, you have people nearly crying. So you've had to kind of tone that down over the years, but I do miss that sound, yeah, for sure.
So I've got one last question before we call it a night, because we've gone on quite a bit tonight, but it's been fantastic. If you could go back to the start and tell Graham Branch of 19-year-old joining Tranmere, what would you tell him now? What would you say to yourself about the professional game, the 17 years of professional football that you're about to have ahead of you?
Good question. Don't take any crap off anyone at that younger age. Practice more. Probably enjoy the ride more as well. All I ever wanted since I was, you know, at an intelligent level enough to understand my own feelings, which was, you know, obviously a long time ago. All I ever wanted to be was a footballer, or nothing else ever entered my head. And you know, people were saying, you know, it's too hard. You know, everyone said that. You know, most people fail, but I never lost that even at 19, signing for Tranmere. So I fulfilled my dream. You know, and I'm lucky enough to play for a great club like, you know, Tranmere and Burnley, especially Burnley, because I really enjoyed my time there as well. But, you know, it's just to work harder, I think, practice more, and don't take so much crap from certain individuals when I was 19. So, yeah, probably. But, yeah, just to enjoy it more, because I played 17 years as a professional footballer. I enjoyed it, but I should have enjoyed it more.
Yeah.
But yeah, you look back and you think, well, I should have done this differently. You know, it's a great question, and I knew it's a question that was coming because loads of people have asked me, and you know, there's always regret, and I do have plenty of regrets footballing wise, because I think with what I had, especially at Tranmere, I should have played at a higher level than I did. But that's something that I'll have to kind of get on with. And you know, and use that to benefit my future, really. So,
well, thanks very much, and thanks for being honest. You know, it's been a real honest assessment of your own football and people around you in football tonight, and I've appreciated it, and it's been, yeah, I really appreciate you coming on.
No worries.
Yeah, I've loved it, every single minute of it. I think we said before you came on, Branchy, we were saying we think you will be there straight.
Graham D. Branchio for the whole session, and then just that's it. Thanks very much. See you later.
We've both been saying it all day. Like, we both messaged each other saying like we just start breaking out into song in work, saying Graham D. Branchio, and people are looking at us and like they're thinking, like, what are these two weirdos doing? But no, it's been a privilege, honestly, though, Branchy. You know, thanks very much for coming on.
I've enjoyed it.
You know, and like I said, you know, spread the word, put it on your Facebook page, whatever you want to do, and we'll put the video up. So yeah, thanks very much, and Younger, over to you to close us down, son.
Yeah. So again, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you either next week or the week after.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Cheers, Branchy. Take care, mate.
See you, mate. No worries at all.